I came across the true-life killer, Andrei Chikatilo, who murdered, I think he was tried for about 66 murders of young men and children, boys and girls, and I think he was tried for about 66 of those murders, but I mean they could have murdered more. And whilst I was reading this case file, it kind of leapt at me that if Somewhere the Shadow was a kind of futuristic, it was a kind of a future serial killer story, this felt like the first one, because no one in Russia really had any of the apparatus to crack these cases. They didn't have the language that we all have now about MOs, about the way in which these cases kind of have similar patterns. They knew none of that. They didn't even have a term serial killer. And on top of that, it was this crime wasn't even meant to exist. So I thought, well, this is a great opposite point to that, the other story I was working on. And I decided to sort of flesh it out as a film treatment. It started as a film idea rather than a novel idea. And I then pitched it to my agent, who said, it's set in a period, because although the real killer killed in the 80s and 90s, I'd moved to the 50s because it's much more dramatic in terms of the risk to your life. In the 80s and 90s, you'd probably lose your job. In the 50s, you'd lose your life for opposing the state. And so I pitched it to my agent. He said it's going to cost a lot of money to make this movie. It's set in Stalinist Russia. It's going to be a hard spec script to sell. Think about writing it as a book. And that was the moment I started writing it as a book.